Hello and welcome. On this episode, we are going to be continuing our Gatsby Starter Blog theme, and we are going to be building the carousel. So let's just dive right in. You can see my screen, as you can see. So a little backstory. I made this video last weekend, and I realized my audio was horrible, and I realized that my mic wasn't working. I was using the microphone on my computer because it was set to default and not my Yeti. So I'm redoing this video. So with that, because of that, I actually have this section done already. So this could be a good learning experience anyway. A little different, but I think it could be good. So I'm not going to walk through explicitly how to do it. My code will be on my GitHub, but I am going to walk through on what I did last week before I ruined the hours I put in, but that's fine. So I'm glad I figured it out now. So on our homepage, so the idea, on our homepage, you can see that we have a carousel, and this is one component, and I'm using it twice. So the idea is I'm going to host or post, each one of these will be websites, like a website I work on. So if you click on it, it'll go to the specific project or the website that I worked on, and same with YouTube. And the list can go on. So you can do coding projects, websites, YouTube, blog posts. And that's the main idea for the homepage that I have. A little snippet about myself, and then show the client, show the user, whoever lands on my site, what I do, and then they can easily access those components or those projects, if you will. And so that's the basic idea, and that's the idea I had. And so with that in mind, I wanted to build a carousel. And not only just a basic carousel, I wanted to build an infinite carousel. And that's what I'm prepared to walk through right now. So that's a high level. Let's just dive right into the code. I'm going to remove this. So in order to, I'm trying to go off memory here. In order to leave off or start where we left off, this homepage had our blog on it still, and I have moved it into its own directory. So if you click on this blog, you'll be using the React link, and that comes built in with React, and that's, you can see because of that like built-in functionality. If you click blog, notice that the browser does not refresh, and that's because of React in the link component, and that's what makes Gatsby and React so quick or so fast. And you just click it and it's static and doesn't have to reload, and that's what makes Gatsby so great. So let's start with where we left off on that. We are going to be removing the blog off of our homepage, and there's a little tweaking we have to do. It's not difficult, but that's where we're going to start. So if we go into the code, if we open up our source files, if we open up our project, so I have Gatsby-Starter-Blog. And if you go into content, you'll see there are two folders now. There's a blog folder and there's a websites folder. So the blog folder is where we hold all of our blog posts. And in each folder is its own blog post. And so the idea is, say I want to make a fourth post, you would add a folder, whatever title you want it, and then actually the title is actually going to represent the URL that will display on your page or on your browser. So see, this is hello world, hello-world. If you go back, this is hello-world. And those represent, that's the same representation, or that folder represents that URL. And we can look at as to why that's happening, but I just want you to get the basic understanding of that folder name structure is important to do. So we have that functionality. So basically, I just wanted to copy that for my websites. I'm going to use the same thing. So what I did is I made a websites folder. I'm sorry, I'm getting into the bushes here, or I'm getting into the weeds. Let's go back. Beep, beep, beep. Going back to why we're doing this in the first place. So blog was on here. We want to get rid of it. How do we do that? Okay, so we want it to be its own page instead of our index or a home page. So in order to do that, in Gatsby, when you go to pages, the pages folder, and you make a page, call it 404.js, blog.js, index.js. That is a direct relationship to the name of your page in your browser. So blog, this is blog.js. So what I did is I made this file called blog.js, and all I did was, I took what was on index.js, I pretty much copied the entire page, and I moved it over to blog.js, and I saved it. And that's all I did. I'm not going to edit this page right now because I want to focus on the carousel, but I just wanted to get the carousel off the home page. In order to do that, I just had to remove it. So I placed it all on blog.js. The page was automatically made, and I might have had to update the link. So when I say link, I mean, great, the page is made, but I want this link right here, this anchor tag on our navigation blog, to actually go to blog.js page. So in order to do that, I believe I had to go into, yes. Yeah, so I went into gatsby-config.js. And so we have this menu links, and we have these blog. Do I have it? Link 3. It actually might be set already. I'm going to double check now. I'm going into navigation. Yes, okay, so you can see here, link to blog. All right, it's already set. I don't think I changed that. You should have that in your code already. You're following along. Yeah, see, this will go to work, but since you can see the URL, but since I don't have this page made yet, it's a 404. And we're going to do that in a different video. So let's go back to home. I mean for this to be a home click, because you can tell right now there's nowhere to click to go back to the home page. And the home page is actually the index page, just so you know. Okay, so what else did we do? We had to do some other things to prepare to make this carousel. I think I'm going to do the logic for the carousel in the next video. So if you want to just skip ahead to that, so be it, or go ahead, be my guest. But I'm going to continue in this video on how we set up to get to that carousel point. This is for the carousel. So if we go back to the content in if we go back to the content where we were looking at the blog and websites. So we have this idea that for each blog post, there's a folder. In that blog post URL will be named whatever the folder is named, okay? And then within that folder, there's an index, and I'm using markdown.md. And then this is where you'll store your images. So for this example, this is a blog post. This is a Hello World blog post. I changed it to Hello Worlds just to show that it can be edited. See that removed. Okay, so see this egg, whatever that is, salty eggs. Anyway, so this is a markdown, and this is the simple reference to the image within the same folder, and it displays. And when you do that, Gatsby uses, I think I have a plugin downloaded for images. Gatsby images are kind of, I don't know, they're kind of tricky to wrap your head around because there's a lot to do with them, and they're basically what slows down your website, or all the images. And so what Gatsby does is they take an image and they cache it at different sizes, and so it's kind of blurry, and it helps speed up load time, or yeah, it speeds it up. But for this particular blog post, we just store the image in that folder, so it can easily reference within the markdown file. If you go to the top here, in between these dashes, or these 3 lines, this is what we call the front matter. And then in this front matter, you hold specific information that you can reference with GrahpQL throughout the site. And so each one of these has front matter, and based on these, so let's go through these. So an example of why we would use front matter, you can see that this has a date, and the last one has a date, and the third one has a date. So since they all have dates, now you can sort these descending or ascending based on which blog post you want to show first. And that makes it easy because now I can just add a file or add a folder, throw in my markdown, have a date included in the front matter, in my site. When it updates, it'll automatically update in the correct order that I want. And that's very powerful. And that can be done using GrahpQL. And same with title. So we can use this as a variable throughout our site. And now we have dynamic titles. So you can see that it shows the date and it shows the title. Yet those specific words are not shown anywhere throughout this blog post. They're only in our front matter. And same, the description, that could be something else. That could be a meta tag. I'm not positive. But yeah, you get the point. So markdown files they're pretty simple to learn. If you don't know them, I highly recommend learning them. Markdown is that's the language for writing in GitHub, in Trello, and I'm sure many more programs, many more software. So yeah, that's a basic idea for blogs. So we already have that functionality built in with this Gatsby Starter blog. And thank you for creating that. So whoever started this when we first downloaded. So using that functionality, I just use websites or whatever you want to show. So it could be your code, it could be your designs. So the same idea. So we have websites. For me, I'm doing website 1. I have a markdown file. I have my front matter in there, and I have an example blog post or an example image. So if we look at my front matter, we have my title, the date. Notice the date's a little different. You want to start with a year, month, day. And it's pretty straightforward from there. You don't have to include the time, the minutes, hours. So just description, you can add whatever. Think category. The category having website is very specific. You need that in order for, let's go back to the home page, in order for it to show up in this carousel. And so likewise, all these are called, will have the category of YouTube. And they just happen to be the same, just to show that we can have both of those. Or they just happen to be the same images, just because I got lazy and I didn't want to download more images. I don't know, I'm sorry. But you can test that. I'm going to put my own images in there eventually, and I highly encourage you to do the same. So, and then let's continue on to, we have a URL. The URL will reference the image. And just to keep it simple, we just include it in the same folder. All right, pretty straightforward, I think. Okay, all right, we're doing good. So we can't just make these folders and hope that they'll work. Like, something has to reference that. And something has to know that we have a websites folder within our content. And typically, you'll want to look in one of two places. And that one place is going to be, well, one of two places. It's either Gatsby config or Gatsby node. That's where most of the logic within Gatsby is being held. So if you're like, where I can't find a reference to this, where is it? Look in one of these two places. Gatsby node, Gatsby config. I need to zoom in, I'm sorry, this whole time. So now we're in Gatsby config. This will be the right place. Dun dun dun. If we scroll down, see, this is our site metadata that we referenced earlier. If we go down to plugins, and you do like you can do a Command F or Control F for PC, I think. Command F. So you do a find, and you look for blog. Dun dun. So you can see this plugin here, Gatsby Source File System. And the path is the directory, so the main folder that we're in, content blog. So I can see here that it's referencing blog with the name of blog. And so I say to myself, okay, since we copied the blog folder, we need to copy the websites folder. And we need to do that. We need to create the same Gatsby source file system for websites. So all I do is I copy this and I rename them from blog to websites. And now that functionality should be able to work throughout our site. So that was the next step. That's all we had to do. The Gatsby config, the file system for our content websites. Then, now we can go back to our index.js or our homepage. And, okay. Now, going back to that, so what does that exactly do? The Gatsby source file system. I'm going to look it up. Gatsby source file system. Just so we're all clear here. Okay, so the Gatsby source plugin for sourcing data in your Gatsby application from your local file system. The plugin, which has to be downloaded, it will be downloaded because it came with the Gatsby Starter Blog. The plugin creates file nodes from files. The various transformer plugins can transform file nodes into various other types of data. So Gatsby Transformer JSON transforms JSON files into JSON data nodes. And Gatsby Transformer Remark transforms Markdown files into Markdown Remark nodes from which you can query an HTML representation of the markdown. So what that's doing, it's allowing us to use markdown in our folder. And you don't have to use that, but markdown is very easy to use and it's very practical to learn. So I highly recommend. So there you have it. That's what that does, in case you were interested. Okay, so I'm going to reference my GitHub to see what else I had changed. And then we should be able to dive into the carousel. The blog file. Carousel, index. Okay, so that is actually it. But before we dive into the carousel, I am going to set up our GrahpQL. So if you go back to the home page or wherever you want to reference your data, those files we just made, the websites, wherever you want to reference that, you need to use GrahpQL to reference the component that we're about to build. So this is a little preview. You can see here, I have 2 carousels on my homepage, and if I just comment that one out, that will be gone. You will not be able to see it. Okay, it's not showing. So I'm going to uncomment that, and it comes back. So we're just going to set up the GrahpQL before we move on to the next video. And this should be already in there. This is just referencing the site metadata, getting the title. What we want to add now is we need to reference our websites. And this is a variable. This can be called whatever you would like. But we will be using that to reference later in the carousel. So just keep that in mind. So I just named it websites, make it easy. And we're going to be querying this data with GrahpQL. We're going to set it up like so. Now, I recommend just typing this in or getting on my GitHub and just copy and pasting. But I will walk through this here. So we're going to be getting all the markdown remarks, so all the markdown files that we have, and it's creating a filter. And within that filter, the front matter. Here, I'll reference this. So these are our markdown files, and it's going through each one of them, and it's filtering out anything that has the category of website. And you can see here, my category is website. Keep in mind, I believe this is case sensitive, so it's just safe to just do a copy and paste right there. And then it's going to reference that. And then for me, it's going to sort it with descending order. I want to show the newest post first within my carousel. And then that gets all of our folders, basically, or our content that we're going to show, and then it breaks it down from there. Whoops. It gets the slug, which we need in order for the URL, and then it gets our front matter. And remember, I said what the front matter was. This is the front matter in between those 2 lines. And it gets our title, category, title, description, URL, and this is going to reference the image. And for me, I have the image set up to be 280 by 200. And that's a fixed width. So I want to keep it uniform, just in case I get an image that's a little off. I want it to be completely uniform so the carousel looks good. And the ID, I'm not sure if we need that in here, but just be safe. So that is the GrahpQL setup. I'm going to pause here, and then in the next video, we're going to dive into the carousel. I'm going to Sorry, motorcycle drove by. The next video, I'm going to dive into the carousel. We're going to build it out. I'll show the logic, and we'll get this thing running. All right, thanks for watching.